Hey there everyone, and welcome to the next video in this series reviewing all the monsters that came out in 2020. Today we're looking at all the holy monsters, and just to clarify again, this is between the anniversary, the 4th and 5th anniversary, so it's from kind of Halloween to Halloween. This video is going to be structured like all the others, with the three sections. First looking at the themes and sub-themes in Holy, then looking at the new monsters. This was the year of waifu. The first year when we got that because the market trend has gone that way. And then lastly we're going to look through what the element has gained, where it stands now and what it needs. There are links in the description to go to all the points in the video, as with all my videos. Now I just want to add here before we go any further, if you just come from watching the fire video, the previous one, you might have noticed that at the end when looking at this third section, talking about what fire needed and that kind of stuff, I wasn't particularly clear. And the reason is, while I split these videos over by element, and I'm splitting the monsters up by element, that's simply because I have to split them up in some way or another. And it just makes sense to do it by element. I don't want to push direction in the way of oh, Link needs to be supported and all the rest of it. There are many archetypes, and many archetypes are split across the elements, which doesn't matter at all. So when I say what fire needs or what holy needs, it's just whether or not there's some small thing to be said there. For example, let's say I felt it was going in the wrong direction from what it was previously, then I might note it there, or I might note that actually something's being missed out that could perhaps be explored a bit more. So it's not kind of a major thing to say there at the end, and in fact there is some stuff which they've been adding in this last year, which I didn't mention in the last episode, or in the Earth video perhaps, which I should have maybe mentioned it, which is they added sort of entrances for each of the elements. So fire has lava entrance now. There's lots of lava entrance that's been added in. It's only on fire monsters, so I think it's going to remain on there. Basically it does a small hit to everything on the field. Then Storm has got fizzy entrance, which only damages all the enemies, not your teammates. And then water has blizzard stuff, which slows down enemy attacks, their attack rates, basically like an anti-accelerate type thing, and it gets countered by accelerate. So that's become a thing there, only in water so far. And then Shadow's been getting a bit more toxic entrance, so maybe they've got a bit more focus on that. It's not unique to them though. And then Holy's been getting healing stuff, like healing entrance, which I don't know if that will come in the other elements too. We have got healing revenge on Metoid, which is a fire monster, but they're definitely doing, they've got themes within these elements, and ultimately that's why I'm splitting up these elements and, talking about them as if, elements need to have a certain thing about them. It's just because they need to have a certain feel about them, and it's better if they do have a certain feel about them, so that they feel distinct, and, you might find a certain one draws you into playing that element more than the other ones. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say on that point. So moving in, looking at the holy monsters, how they work in general is holy is very tanky. It's got the highest number of defense monsters, the lowest number of attack monsters, which the two kind of go hand in hand. It's got fewer of the full defense monsters than Earth does, more focus on the standard defense. So even though it's got more defensive monsters in general, Earth has the more kind of super tanks. And then also Holy has the lowest speeds of all the elements. So overall it's super tanky, just very much a support control type thing, and they've got a lot of tools to counter basically any of the other archetypes. That's the way Holy kind of works and does well, is that they're very difficult to deal with. Link Holy teams tend to be hard to kind of just sweep your way through. And yeah, anyway, the new monsters we're looking at this year, there were very, very few. But I will say they're good. I like them quite a lot. I do like Holy a bit more in general, and I'm slightly biased towards it, but I think the Holy monsters we got this year are actually good, even though there's only a few of them. So we got 3 Mythics, 2 Legendaries, 4 Super Epics, and then there's 1 0 to 4 star. So going into the themes, the first theme is Healing theme. There are loads of monsters here. It's one of the best supported themes on any element. And, maybe I'm a bit broad with it, but on the left here we have monsters which heal themselves. In the middle there's 3 there which have a kind of more situational heal, like a life flip or repent. And then on the right we've got monsters that can do a mass heal, healing teammates, sometimes even repeatedly. There's so much healing in Holy, it's definitely a thing that it does, and it absolutely fits Holy. You see this in so many games that the Holy or light element is focused on healing. So next we have Mist. Now this is slightly distinct from just Purifying or Stealth. Holy has slightly more in the way of actual Purify and Stealth at the same time, or having them kind of mixed in there. Like on the left here we've got the Purify stuff basically, and on the right we've got the actual Purify Mist stuff. Blitzdeer is kind of a funny one because it's got Purify and Stealth as two separate things. But yeah, something like Sherloid on the left here I think is a really good example of the monster itself has Camouflage and then it has Purify. That's kind of like a classic Holy monster in that it does have it combined in there, both the kind of things, not just Purify or Stealth, it has both. Next we have a Stun theme. Now this hasn't been so well supported in the last year or two, but it definitely was in the past, and it's noticeable that in Holy that there are lots of stun monsters. It's definitely a theme that's going on. And next we have Survivor theme. This is, again, hasn't been supported too well recently, but that's just generally because Survivor's not the most viable, I think, that they haven't exactly pushed Survivor monsters. We may get some more of this in the future, but yeah, it definitely was a theme earlier on, and Holy has a noticeable number of Survivor monsters in there. Next is Revival sub-theme. I might perhaps move this up to a theme now, because previously there were 3 monsters, now there's 5. This year we'll see if there are any more, but, well, there's only a few monsters, so perhaps not. But anyway, 5 monsters here. Revival is incredibly powerful in the right circumstance. Getting an extra monster could be an enemy monster. If you're in PvE, it could be a buffed monster, that kind of thing. So really powerful stuff, and Holy does it probably the best out of any element. It's pretty much only in Holy and Shadow. And then lastly we have the Retribution sub-theme. Now this is slightly better supported in Earth, but Holy is probably the next element that has the most Retribution stuff, and if you've done PvP you'll know that Retribution can be very powerful. It's a strong move. It got buffed in damage when Angel Iron came out, and so now even things like Frostdrake Lotus easily one-shots with Retribution. So yeah, Holy's got a lot of cool Retribution stuff, and then in the top right you'll see here that there's some other ones which I didn't really flesh out, but Give Turn, Anti-Stun, Sleep, Confident Strike, all a little bit better supported in Holy than other elements, and they're all kind of, you know, control stuff, support stuff. That's what Holy really has as its forte. So now moving into the new monsters. First off we have Yin Yang. Now this is the 0 to 4 star monster. It's kind of a Shadow and Holy monster. Originally you could only get one of these. I can't remember which. I think it was the Holy one, which is why I've included it in the Holy video, and I won't be including this in the Shadow video. But now you can actually get the second one too. It's from the Friend Chest, and these are Yin Yang. They turn into each other as they die. So they have to be killed either at the end of the team or by a move which sacrifices the user. It's really awkward to get rid of. However, when you kill one, the other one does get added to the back of your team. So it's not like it's there in the battle constantly. It's just there's one of them there. When that gets killed, then it's like the other one's at the back of the team and has to be dealt with right at the end in the awkward way. Anyway, so these have very much thematic within those elements, what those elements want to do. So on they both have Kinslayer, and then on the Holy side you've got a reasonably good speed monster which has high defense, and it can they all have link moves. Just if you can read here anyway. The Holy monster can heal the team or Purify Mist the team. So very much fitting with what Holy likes to do. It's Holy support, and in fact this is really quite nice if you're using it in a linked team, because it can satisfy both those conditions. It's just, you know, a bit easier to kill off than some other monsters. And then the Shadow one can kill a random enemy or poison all enemies and do a little bit of damage, and it's a low defense monster. So both really fit the theme. In terms of its strength, it's pretty cool. The main thing about this actually is less so much fitting into a linked team and doing what you want in that kind of theme. It's actually more the passive time freeze, which disables a bunch of stuff. Probably most notably, most frequently, it will disable Overwatch. That's what it will really do. But yeah, it can disable some other stuff. It locks down things quite nicely. But ultimately, this is not like a powerful monster. It's quite cool that just comes up sometimes, and you could probably fit this into a team and not feel too bad about it. It's just not going to be that strong. So next we have the first super epic, which is Epidemic. Now this is the little play on coronavirus. It came out, I can't remember when exactly, it was like February or March, like near the beginning of when, no, sorry, maybe it was a little bit later. Anyway, near the beginning of when the pandemic was spreading around the world. And in some ways, this is actually slightly disrespectful to it, but I don't think it's intentionally disrespectful. The fact that it calls it divine punishment, to say anything that can revive monsters dies, kind of sounds like it's divine punishment, that this is God's will that the pandemic's hit and they want to kill doctors. But that's probably just me reading into it really badly. So, please do not take that the wrong way. Anyway, yeah, this is the coronavirus pandemic joke monster. However, it's actually really good, and it got made really good because they added stun absorber on it. So this monster is quite complicated. I don't want to go on about it too much, other than to say this is a tanky stun absorber with only a sleep killer weakness. So that's pretty decent for a super epic anyway. And then when it dies, it purifies everything on the field, which can be pretty useful. It's also able to kill things with Death Mark. That's very nice on a super epic. So it can't really just be ignored. If they stun out of play, it could be ignored. But otherwise, if they don't stun it, they can't just leave it there and go, well, it's not going to do much, because Death Mark is actually a bit of a big deal. Ghostbuster, killing shadow monsters, kills quite a few of them. And Sleep Curse, this is the weird move. So Sleep Curse, they fall asleep after 100 seconds passes, and then they sleep for 300 seconds. You can actually stack these, so you can... normally you have to wait for a monster to wake up before you then put it back to sleep. You can use Sleep Curse on a sleeping monster if it's going to wake up in the next 100 seconds, and then it will wake up and go back to sleep again. So this is maybe a little bit useful for that. Otherwise, it's actually quite nice because it's guaranteed sleep. I've used this in Island Challenge where, kind of behind some protectors, I think maybe, and I was able to spam Sleep Curse, and if the enemy ignore it for a little bit, you can actually start putting them all to sleep. So, pretty cool monster. There's quite a lot going on with it. I don't think, though, it's that viable in like top level PvP. And in PvE, you'd have to kind of build around it with protectors or whatever to get some sleep block thing kind of going, or then death marking. Like, you can get some value out of it. It's quite good. It's a decent stun absorber, but nothing too crazy. Next, we have the shiny Bitterbeast. Now, Bitterbeast is it's a kind of fan favourite monster, and I would say Bitterbeast is kind of falling by the wayside a bit, just because we'd expect a bit more from stun absorbers these days. Stun is very powerful, and we've got some far more effective counters to stun than is seen on super epic. Stun absorbers just aren't so great. This one is kind of a downgrade, maybe, to the normal Bitterbeast. So instead of Ultra Blight, it's got Kinslayer, which is an upgrade, but instead of Overwatch, it's got Link Inspire. Now, Link Inspire is a cool move because you can Overwatch teammates, but 130 seconds is enormous, and this monster otherwise is exactly the same. You kind of want to Overwatch itself, but then 130 seconds on that is crazy. So really, you'd only want to use this in a Link team if you're going to Overwatch teammates. And then if you're doing that, then this is a stun absorber which can be stunned out of play and be useless, and otherwise it's just way too slow to get stuff going. Now, I have this rated pretty high. I'm probably going to lower it down a bit. I think it's slightly more effective stun protection than the Epidemic, which we just looked at, which is why I've got it kind of high, because stun protection is important. But I do think this is probably worse than the other Bitterbeast, and ultimately, in the long run, this isn't going to be anything crazy. I've seen quite a few people using this, like if they use Link Holy and they opt for this over the normal Bitterbeast. But I'd say only really do that if you're going to be doing some cool combo with the Link Inspire, otherwise it feels kind of weaker. Next we have Lord Stag. Now this is a cool monster. It's funny looking at these tier lists actually and thinking, that last one I was down on, even though it was higher than the previous one, and then this one I'm going to be up on, and it's in PvP it's lower than the Bitterbeast. Listen to what I'm saying. The tier lists are kind of more a rough idea, and it's how you choose to use these and how they fit into the game, which ultimately may change over time as well. So this is a Mark monster. It's a tanky monster. I really quite like that in a super epic when it's got some good moves to make it tanky, because otherwise they'll just kill it off way too easily before it gets a turn. This is surprisingly tanky, and then when it gets a turn, it can instantly kill something with Exile. Yes, it's a 200-second move, but you could give turn to it, and otherwise it is a guaranteed kill. The other way of killing things is you can mark and then cornered snipe, which basically guaranteed kills something, unless it's like buffed a really long way. So despite being a tanky monster, this can kill things. The Union Focus, it's a robot. There are robots in Holy, you can get some robots in Holy, so or, you don't even have to play this in Holy. There's nothing telling you to play this in Holy. So you can easily use this and have focus, which means you can do the corner sniper around protectors and that kind of stuff. And then otherwise, it's got a lovely fail case here of heal all, so you can get rid of it if you need it to. I think this is a really well designed monster. I do like it a lot, and I've got it high for PvE, that's the in general there, because it can kill buffed enemies so easily, and tanking is good there. The heal all should probably help quite a bit. So I think this is a really decent PvE monster, and I think it's got a lot of good going for it. It's just probably not the same kind of power level as Legendaries out there, which does hold it back a bit. Next we have the Pyramid Golem. You'll see these in a bunch of elements. The Pyramid Golems are very powerful. This is one of the good ones. The only thing which holds it back from being like S or S plus in PvP is the damage on Hellfire Mortar Double. Unfortunately, this has full defense stats. It has the minimum attack, and that means that Hellfire Mortar Double doesn't do that much damage. So it doesn't really one-shot any legendaries. Like Shadow one's okay, but anything else you're not really going to one-shot it. It can just about one-shot super epics, and that holds it back enormously. However, other than that, the moveset is very, very good. So it's got the PG load to load any teammate for 70 seconds, so this can be a good thing to load teammates. The solo pure cure, this is really good for supporting the other Pyramid Golems, because they all have hold ground, so getting rid of poison is very important, as well as if they're put to hold ground, healing them up is very good. So this supports them very nicely, both with the loading, well, as they all do, or the pure cure. The damage, like I said, is not great on the Hellfire Mortar Double, but Drain Survivor is good, and that's a lovely... Drain Survivor is actually a brilliant fail case for something like the Pyramid Golems, because if the Pyramid Golems get taken out, so there's just one left, then they can't do so much, because they have to load teammates, they can't load themselves. But Drain Survivor means that, if they spent the time getting rid of your teammates, then you can just Drain Survivor after that, and yes, that's decent enough. The Single Sleep Revenge, this is a very, very powerful passive. So that's what really pulls this together as to being a good Pyramid Golem, is that if they kill it, then one of their monsters gets put to sleep. If they don't kill it, then you've got Drain Survivor, and in the meantime it supports the Pyramid Golems quite very nicely, and it can do damage. It's just not the best damage. I think if this got a damage buff, which people have asked for that, I am in support of it, to be honest. I think if that happens, this will definitely be like the Pyramid Golem you were using, along with the Pyramid Golems. It will be up there as one of the top ones and one of the best super epics. So that was the super epics. We now move on to the legendaries. There are only 2 legendaries. This is the first one, Moku, and this one's a funny one. So it's incredibly powerful, and it took me a while to realise just how powerful it is. This is a kind of community designed one. It's a meme monster, which is why it's emoji. Like emoji and Rockoid monsters are basically meme monsters, and this was done by doing a forum vote, because people were joking with when Daunt came into the game, and I can't remember what else there was. Then people were joking about, there should be flaunt and vaunt and all that kind of stuff, as like moves which were stun but not stun, or sleep but not sleep, so they don't make you have the killer. That's taunt. Taunt was the other one. Taunt and daunt, which are like protector and stun but not protector and stun. They don't open you up to the weakness. So anyway, there was a vote put to. It was a joke that the developers made with someone, this guy called Lemon Squeezy. They said, okay, if you can do a poll and get 50 votes on adding flaunt, I believe it was, into the game, then we'll add flaunt into the game. So the thing got like 60 votes or something. So it got added into the game, and the monster got designed. I don't know how much input Lemon Squeezy had with the design, but it got both flaunt and vaunt, being things that double either the attack or the defense of this monster. Anyway, all that aside, this monster is very weird, and ultimately it cares about the number of monsters which both teams have, counting both the reinforcements and the monsters on the field. And ultimately what you really want to hone in on here is the secret skill. The secret skill is piercing one-shot all enemies. It does crazy damage, enough that you can use this in PvE and easily kill buffed monsters, even like, I think it does like half the health of super bosses and that kind of stuff. It's incredibly powerful, and if you have this at the back of your team, you're pretty much guaranteed for it to come in with double defense, which means it's exceptionally tanky. It's got loads of health, so even with piercing, it can be a little harder to kill. And then when it gets a turn, it will piercing one-shot all the enemies. Oh yeah, no killer weaknesses either, so it's very hard to deal with. This is probably the best monster to use in the last slot of your team, no matter what team you're using, simply for that secret skill. It's incredibly powerful, and that's why it's S+ for PvP. So that's the main thing, the main kind of powerful use for it. Otherwise, if you can manipulate the team to have the same number of monsters, so your team has the same amount of the same number of monsters as the opponent, then you can use that other damage move, and it will one-shot all the enemies. Otherwise, if you have more monsters than they do, then this has double attack, so it actually does reasonable damage with that move. That's the kind of the damage front, and then you can manipulate the number of monsters with the give one, the gain one, the lose one, so you can give the opponent an extra monster, or you can either give or take away from your own team by one. So this is good for summoning rocks if you have other things that want to use rocks. The bronze shells can mess up the opponent, and then the lose one is effectively like a backbite. It's really fast, only 50 seconds to kill a teammate off and heal Moku. So this is probably one of the best backbite monsters in the game for that, and that's a very powerful effect which comes into play in some specific battles, or otherwise just it's really good for killing off dead weight. There's no condition on that, you can just kill anything on your team and healing Moku up. So yeah, all around this monster is very powerful. There's a lot going on with it, and you can put it into a bunch of teams to support them, or at the back of your team to do the secret skill. I don't know if this monster will get nerfed at some point, but it's definitely come out over time that it's really, really, really powerful. So the other legendary that we got this year was just a shiny version of an old legendary. So this is Tiamatzus, which got revamped, and it's not actually that much different to the normal Tiamatzus. It's still got the same passives, the same moves, other than Poison Touch got turned into Poison Gas, which is, if you ask me, a bit of a downgrade. It's kind of weird as well, because like in Holy you don't want anything to do with that, anything to do with Poison Gas, so it doesn't really fit Holy's design, and otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's fine because they had to vary something. But yeah, that's all that's really different. And then the secret skill, which has changed from Swift Catapult, that is actually a good secret skill on Tiamatzus, to a 200-second Detox Blast. Now, it's worth noting that because Tiamatzus has full attack, that the Detox Blast is powerful. It does one-shot a lot of things, more so than, say, like Terror Dragon or the super epic Abyss Raider. But it's not super powerful. It's not going to one-shot everything. It's just a bit more powerful. So I'm not that impressed by that secret skill. I think Poison Gas is a downgrade on Poison Touch. I think this is ultimately a bit worse than the normal Tiamatzus. I personally wouldn't choose to get it. I think these monsters are relatively good, but nothing too crazy. Flare Vern's the sort of standout one. But yeah, I don't rate this one that highly. But it's a shiny old monster, so I wasn't expecting it to be like anything too powerful. I don't think it really brings down Holier in terms of overall rating this year. Anyway, moving on to Mythics. The first Mythic is Aetherian. Now, with all Mythics, it's really hard to gauge how powerful they are and for where they should be in a tier list. This is a monster which a lot of people have criticised me for putting it too low in the tier list, and hopefully after I've talked a bit, you'll realise why I've put it where I have. But yeah, do bear in mind, the tier list is a rough guide. It could very easily be, anything could be moved around in the tier list. It's just me trying to give you an idea of how strong these monsters are overall in general settings. So this monster is very weird. It's basically like stun protection with the insulator field, letting nothing stun on the battlefield, and with the whole ground and potential to heal, it's quite difficult to deal with. It does lock down stun pretty nicely. Then the moves though are a bit weird. So Metempsychosis ultimately this is what I would class as a weaker repulse. So rather than just knocking something back next in line, it kills it and puts it next in line in full health. So it heals it, which is, downside really, and also it resets any moves like any one-use moves. Now, one of the good uses for Repulse is that if they say need a certain move to then charge their blood move, and then they can just be sweeping with their blood move, Repulse resets that really nicely because they then don't have that move to use, so they get stuck without anything too great to use. Metempsychosis doesn't do that, so it's not really, it's a worse Repulse in that regard. I think that's probably the main point of how it gets worse. It's also slower than Repulse. However, the big upgrade is it's repeatable, so you can keep doing this. Also, downgrade is it makes Aetherian weak to Slayerbane, because Repulse doesn't do a kill, but Metempsychosis does, so it means that he can be targeted by Slayerbane. So yeah, got a weaker Repulse, and then the other move, Time Warp, this basically just passes time. So in terms of impact on the battle, I don't think it has an enormous impact with those two moves, and then the other two, their damage, which like one's just an assisted attack, like fine, it's okay, but nothing special, and the other one is a survivor move. So Aetherian doesn't really have much impact on the battle for a while, other than the locking down stun. So it's stun protection for a while, has a bit of kind of like manipulation of stuff, and then becomes a sweeper with Double Drain Survivor. The secret skill is very cool, but it doesn't make any impact on the battlefield, so it's very powerful if you have things under control, getting the next thing in line, but if you don't, then you probably want to be doing something more impactful to the battle. So ultimately, I think Aetherian is, and I may be proven wrong, it happens to be a mythic that I've awakened, so I'll definitely have a better idea of it very soon after I've given it a try, but ultimately I think it doesn't have an enormous amount of impact on the battle for quite a while. It's only if it gets ignored that it gets to that, and so really what you're looking at is this gets used in control teams or in specific combos. For example, if you use it with Cyberith to pass time, like anything to pass time, this also helps pass time itself, then it's going to be good there. With protectors it can work well. If you're going to be messing up the opponent's team with bronze shells and that kind of stuff, this can lock down the other stuff that by doing Metempsychosis over and over. So this is kind of like it supports disruption strategies ultimately. I think that's where it sits. It supports them nicely by giving them stun protection and extra disruption, and then becomes a sweeper later. If you just use this standalone, I don't think it works that well. I think it's fine, but really nothing special in that regard. So that's why I have it low in the tier list, but in the right teams it's definitely powerful, and overall I think it's probably the exact amount of power that I want to see in Mythics. The kind of thing which, like, if you build around it right, it's good, but otherwise it's fine, but nothing too crazy. Anyway, next we have Canna. Canna is really annoying. I'll say that now. I love it. I think it's cool in some respects, but also just really annoying. And because of the secret skill, secret seal, the passive, that means that the opponent can't use secret skills. It's a one-sided effect. Like, the insulator field we just looked at, nobody can stun. That's everything unable to stun. Okay, that's fine. One-sided, can't use secret skills. Why can't it just be like, nothing except Canna can use secret skills? That would be something you could build around, and like, you just use monsters that don't rely on the secret skills, or use them without the secret skills, so then it saves cost for elsewhere in your team. I don't know why it needs to be a one-sided effect, and to be honest, it pisses me off a bit. But yeah, so that is really annoying. Canna herself, she's tanky, she's got good defense, reasonable speed, so then, well, I say reasonable, it's very good speed, but you load, so then she doesn't actually do anything for a while. But in terms of tanking, with the high defense, the shield that comes soon, she's a pain to kill. And then she can tracking piercing mortar, great damage move. She can stun but not stun an enemy, and she can revive. Revival, it's repeatable revival, very, very powerful. So great options there. The stunning is probably the one which you do the least, but between the damage and the reviving, she can do a lot of good stuff. She's going to lock down some enemies. Only a few are really going to get properly locked down and you can ignore them, but it's otherwise going to really mess up what they're trying to do. very frequently going to mess up what they're trying to do a little bit. And then the secret skill, ultimately, because she doesn't have hold ground, the heal isn't super good, but ultimately it speeds her up. So it doesn't have the problem that a lot of mortar monsters have, where they've got to load and then do their thing, then load, then do their thing. Like, if you're loading and doing Revival Mortar, that's 260 seconds. I mean, she's +9, so it'll be 220, but like that's pretty slow. So the Accelerate really helps that out, getting to do that, everything a bit faster. So she's pretty cool. She can do a lot of good stuff, messing up your opponent as well, difficult to kill off. And then lastly, the Cryo Revenge, very, very strong. Actually, I said at the beginning of this video that Blizzard stuff is only in water. Looks like, yeah, this is one that's in Holy. Fully doubling their seconds, disabling a monster, so you can basically ignore it. It's very similar, I think, to the single Sleep Revenge that we see on some monsters. I'd say similar kind of power level, disabling one monster pretty nicely that can be countered by Accelerate, just like Sleep can be countered by, like Insomnia or Purify. So yeah, all round, very difficult monster to deal with and pretty damn powerful. This is good in almost all scenarios you use it, I think. It's slightly better when you build around it, so you can get to the moves because you have got to load first of all, you can't do anything else. But very, very powerful mortar monster. And then lastly, the third mythic that we got in Holy is Tearfina. Now this one, I really wanted to rate it high. I love the moveset. This is one of the mythics that I really want to awaken. However, I do think it's a bit restricted. So I've got it kind of more middle of the range for the tier lists, because I think ultimately that's probably where it should sit. But what this has going for it is very cool. So it's got very good speed and hold ground, so this is pretty reliably getting a turn. Like, they can't really kill it before it gets a turn, and if they put it to 1 HP, well, that doesn't really matter, because when it gets a turn, it can then, from the brink, has since been reduced to 1 second, so it can instantly fully heal itself when it gets a turn. So trying to kill this off before it actually gets a turn is pretty much impossible. I think in most scenarios you won't be able to do it. And then it's going to put instant overwatch on itself, and then heal itself if it needs to. So then it's probably going to get a second turn too. So this is one of the very few monsters in the game actually which is pretty much guaranteed to get 2 turns. And then it's got the Purify Mist, great support move, just all round great support move on a high speed monster. Is lovely too, because it's going to come in there and then disrupt any poison or sleep that's going on. Help you get out of that without it being like Roaring Entrance Purify. I think 89% speed Purify Mist is pretty close. And it also creates a Daimonoid next in line. Not too fussed about that. Protectors have a lot of counters right now, and yeah, ultimately that's just to help with the Punish. So Punish is the big move here. Punish instantly kills something that has 2 kills. Very good in PvE. Sorry, no, not very good in PvP. What I mean is, it's very good at dealing with the proper threat, I think. Because a lot of the time, there'll be one particular enemy that's killing your team really nastily. Maybe 2, but like usually, the problem monsters, when you're in a bad situation and stuff, they have 2 or more kills. That's the way it is. So Tearfina coming in and being practically impossible to stop from getting a turn, maybe even 2 turns, means that she can use this Punish to take out the enemy sweepers very nicely. If they've got protectors in the way, it is a problem, but ultimately I think Punish is very effective on high speed monster for doing this. So she can take out their sweepers, and then after just 1 kill, Blood Crush will do very good damage. If you've done From the Brink, it will one-shot pretty easily. I think basically everything, all legendaries at least, it will one-shot after just 1 kill. Otherwise, 2 kills, it will get them. But like most of the time, what you'll do is this will come in, it will then get a turn very quickly, and then either Purify Mist is going to help a lot, or you Punish, because there'll probably be a Punish target. And so then she has a kill, and then can subsequently do Blood Crush or Purify Mist. And when I saw this originally, I was like, this is great. It's got the high speed reliability, it's going to do this stuff, killing the enemy, supporting your team, it's always going to work. However, when I actually came to use it, I realised that a fair amount of the time, it's not that you don't have a target or a good use for it, but it's like you realise that it can only do those two things. It can kill an enemy or do a Purify Mist. And compared to other top tier monsters and what you really want from monsters, its restrictiveness, it does hold it back quite a bit. Like Purify Mist, sometimes it's like one or two of your monsters are poisoned and it kind of matters in the battle, but like not that much. And you're like, normally I wouldn't choose to do Purify Mist in this case. It's like, it's fine, but it's not anything that powerful. So you kind of have to do Purify Mist. Or, you know, because there isn't a punish target or something like that. Like, you get into these awkward scenarios where you don't feel like you're actually getting the full value out of Tearfina. So, ultimately, I think she's another good power level mythic on the same kind of level as Aetherian in terms of, like, strong but won't feel busted a lot of the time. And where you want to place her, unfortunately, despite her high-speed Purify Mist, you don't really want her in the front line because you need the kills with Punish. So yeah, you want her kind of more in the mid game, and then she can help bring you back into the game. That's what she really does. So very cool design. I love this monster to bits. I really want Brynhilda Awaken first, which I've had for 2 years now, and it's still just on one shard. And then after that, I want to awaken Tearfina. I love the holy designs. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough about those new monsters. Let's get to the third section. This is having a look at where these things fit in and how Holy is doing. So, despite not getting many monsters, in classic Holy style, almost all the monsters fit in with what Holy tries to do. In fact, even Moku for the Retribution sub-theme, which Retribution doesn't have like the most monsters for it, but Moku supports that pretty nicely. So healing, we obviously got loads of healing. That's how Holy does things, just always healing on their stuff. Mist, we always get a fair amount of Mist stuff as well. Survivor, now we did actually get some more Survivor support here. Double Drain Survivor on Aetherian is very nice, and in fact that Time Warp really helps the Survivor theme work, because you can pass the time past 100 seconds for free there, essentially. And then, yeah, the other one is not really Holy support for Survivor, but you know. Stun theme, we got a not stun move on Canna. We haven't really had any more stun things for Holy. And then we did get another revival monster in Canna, a very powerful revival monster. So we've been consistently getting revival monsters in Holy. I think it's a very cool thing that's going on there. And I don't know if it's something you can necessarily build around, like lots of revival stuff. But you can definitely put revival into your team, especially if you're using a Link Holy team, which is quite cool. So a lot of great stuff, the themes here. Really good support all around. I'd say only stun didn't get supported that well. In terms of the strength of the monsters, so I obviously went through this while talking through the monsters. I think I went through it a bit more than I did for Earth and Fire. I generally feel like the power level was good. I'm actually pretty happy with the Holy monsters that came out this year, despite not being very many. The Super Epics are decent enough. They're not broken, but they're good. The Pyramid Golem could be exceptionally powerful. If it got that buff to the damage, it would be very, very good. The Legendaries, like I said, there were two. Moku was very good. Tiamat's, we can't really, I can't really be too down on that, because it's basically like it was a mediocre monster to begin with, so the shiny version wasn't going to be anything crazy. But Moku's very powerful, and then the Mythics, I think all round they were solid, they were good. They weren't anything nuts. So in terms of power level, while this isn't as exciting as some other elements, I think this is actually what the developers should aim for. I think these monsters are bang on what they should aim for. The only small note on that is Canna not having a one-sided effect. If Mythics get one-sided effects that are that powerful, I am not happy. But if that thing on Canna was changed, so it was like all monsters on the field apart from Canna, then I would be very, very happy with everything that happened in Holy this year. Well, saying that, slightly more monsters would be good, but you know what I'm saying. Really good power level stuff all round, I think. So where does Holy stand now? Well, there's more good stun protection options. That was one of the surprising things this year, was we've got 2 stun absorbers and the insulator field mythic as well. Holy didn't really need more stun protection, but it was kind of falling slightly behind from. It used to have the top spot, I think, for stun protection. It fell from that pillar very slightly, and then it's been boosted back up again. So yeah, that's definitely kind of a theme that's going on in Holy, is always good stun protection. There's more good stuff that in the themes, as I said, as usual. And then, yeah, just needed more stuff in general. So things haven't changed that much compared to how they were before. I think Holy was kind of fine in general. I would like it to see a bit more support in the long run. And one thing which I didn't note, but I did show in the Survivor theme right at the beginning, is that Pontybear has Link Survivor Plus. This is something I really like a lot, and I think I have it on the next slide if I just go to that. Yes, so what does Holy need? I think it would be very nice to see a Link Sweeper. I don't think we really have any Link Sweepers in Holy. Yeah, but I think about it now, like there's a lot of assisted hit all kind of stuff, but like there's no actual Link Sweepers. So I wouldn't mind having a Link Sweeper in Holy. Something to go with, like Pontybear with the Link Survivor Plus. Link Survivor Plus is a very powerful move. If you didn't know, Pontybear has been buffed into a really powerful Link Holy monster. The Salvation is lovely, it's fast, Stealth Bane's always a great move, it's a tanky monster all round, and then the Link Survivor Plus does very good damage, and it's only like 70 seconds, I believe. So Pontybear's awesome, and I'd love to see a legendary version of that kind of moveset with Link Survivor Plus. But yeah, so that's just something which I personally would like to see in Holy. Generally, they're like very tanky, so you know they're not always going to be sweepers. That's fine, but like I'd like to see something like that. And then I think I haven't written it here, but I'd quite like a little bit more stun stuff in Holy. We haven't seen any stun stuff in Holy for a long time. We've just seen it in like loads of other elements. Maybe that's just they don't want to do that. They've kind of steered clear of that. But they've occasionally done stun in Holy, so I would like to see a little bit more there. And Confident Strike, because it really fits with the healing stuff, as well as maybe some Hardened Carapace monster, because they can work with healing very nicely. So yeah, that's kind of like what I think about Holy in terms of what it could have in the future. It's clearly going to have a bit more support in the next year or two, because it hasn't had support for quite a while. I think last year, like, it had probably the least support, and then this year again, you know, probably the least support in terms of number of monsters. So yeah, it's worthy. It's going to be, it's deserving of having some more monsters. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed me going through Holy. Like I always say with Holy, I'm slightly biased towards it. I do love it as an element, and I'd love to see it have some more support in the future. But it's definitely doing fine. It's a strong element. So yeah, that's it for Holy. The next one will be Shadow, which will be coming out next week.